I'm elected to, one of my priorities is to work with community leaders like yourselves in establishing in a committee that is not just gonna meet, but is gonna try to work things out, try to figure out how we can work with different levels of government. I hope that committee is comprised of, educators, business leaders, community leaders, people in the arts, people in the health field, some local council member, local town council folks, so that we could try to begin that dialogue. It's not gonna happen overnight, but I think if we start beginning to identify what kind of resources are needed to move that discussion forward, whether it's consolidating and incorporating someday, or whether it's getting rid of duplicative type of services that are done, but and seeing what's being left behind and what falls through the cracks. That's kind of my goal. That's my goal, is to put something together. And at least for the 2 years that I'm there, who knows when you're there beyond that, but at least in that time, being able to develop that framework. Because, there is, being here a number of times, talking with many of you, obviously I see the change, I see the needs, I see the different challenges and the different obstacles that need to be overcome in order for the community to kind of get back on track and do some and thrive.
What she was mentioning is all the things that we've been talking about could be addressed if we had a voice. If we, as a community, had a voice, an official voice, which we do not. And therefore, we get overlooked, we get left behind. And what she was talking about, having somebody to help us, because our meetings, KRVR included, we sit around like this and we talk about things that need doing. But to go from that point to doing them seems to be a stumbling block in a lot of cases. Not every case. We have some people who do amazing things and have accomplished amazing things. This guy right here, for one. But I know a lot of other things don't get beyond the talking stage.
Because they won't let it, and this is the organization that won't let it. The Chamber of Commerce is the organization that blocks everything because it's controlled by a few business people. Mm-hmm. And Richard knows better than anybody.
Well, I think being able to come up with different vehicles, different sort of pathways to that type of leadership development and engagement is going to be key. When I worked as a council aide in LA, we represented the San Fernando Valley, Panorama City, Sylmar, North Hills, Pacoima, some parts of the valley that had a lot of challenges in terms of poverty, crime. And so we put together, through the council office, we put together a group of folks that met every month, included community leaders, included our council office, and it also included department heads of streets, lights, police department, and others, who we would come together and have the discussions, and we created what we call the hot sheet. It was basically a spreadsheet that started with one item and ended up with 300 items over the years, everything from just removing graffiti from a building or fixing a sidewalk. But the whole point is that there was accountability to it. It was maintained by the district attorney, or the city attorney's office. So they kept it, and they said, okay, today we're meeting, well, what happened through items 1 through 10? Well, they're done or they're in progress. So there was accountability. That's what was the key to our success, was that we all sat here and we all left with notes, but there was nobody that followed up. So I'm hoping to be able to at least, try to facilitate that and have some discussions and just bring in different voices so we can all be on the same page. I mean, that's my goal. I want to be able to help develop more leadership and help increase that opportunity.
Back to the hospital thing, or healthcare, actually. One of the propositions, there's been some confusion or disagreement, I should probably say, between a lot of the organizations interested in rural access to health care that have taken issue with the Democratic Party's position on Proposition 8, which on the face of it sounds like something that should, let's say they should do. But on the other hand, people have approached us saying that if you take away income incentive for private dialysis clinics, then areas like this will not have access to dialysis. And so I would like to know what you think about that.
Well, I've been reading about the propositions here and there, and particular 8, I've had an opportunity to kind of see both sides in terms of what is being proposed. As you mentioned, it affects specifically one industry, which is dialysis providers. In Tulare, in the city of Tulare that I represent, we have a couple of the big ones. I think the Vidia, is the big one. And so we do have access to our residents. And so I have known a couple of people that have basically been kept alive by dialysis. Without dialysis treatments, they wouldn't be around. So for me, the priority is making sure we have access to all healthcare. It doesn't make sense if you open up a hospital and it doesn't have an emergency room, or if you open up a clinic and they don't provide certain services, it doesn't make sense. So for me, the priority is working to make sure that we keep everything that we can open. So does that mean I oppose Prop 8 or support Prop 8? I think for me, it's a fight that from what I understand, there were discussions to try to work things out, and it didn't work out, so someone felt we needed to go to the ballot box to work it out. And so sometimes that doesn't necessarily fix the thing that was a problem. It just makes it worse, because if voters decide that they vote yes on Prop 8, then we get into the situations where you talk about it limits healthcare access. And I think a lot of folks don't read the fine details, don't understand. They just see the commercials. They see someone in certain garb or certain title, and they believe that person, right? So I think, I know the parties taking a position to support Proposition 8. I know others have. But for me, at the end of the day, it's, we're at the point where it's very difficult to legislate a fix when the people have spoken. So we're down to the last week. We'll know on November 6th whether it passes or not. If it passes, then I think we're gonna try to work to make sure that type of service is available to all communities. If it doesn't, then I don't think it'll make much of an impact. But sometimes when people vote on things directly, it limits the legislature's ability to fix it, because it's very fine-tuned. If it was a piece of legislation, then you can amend it, you can change it, and you can go back and revisit it. So, but to answer your question, I'll do what I can to make sure that people have access to all healthcare.
Whichever way it goes.
Because at this point, we just can't control it. I mean, if it passes, it's very difficult to try to
Doctors
go
and
back.
nurses, I looked up as a former nurse retired, they don't support it.
They don't.
They don't.
Yeah, the medical community does not.
And so I think I respect their professionalism and knowledge.
That's kind of how I go about it, or like my sister works for the roads department, and when they have an issue, I'm like, so what's the deal? What is really the deal?
Right.
But I also on that question, I also think that real leadership comes when you stick to your principles and your beliefs, and at some point you're gonna have to challenge your own party. It happens with us in families. I mean, when we get around the Thanksgiving table, we all have different political beliefs, but we're all family at the end of the day.
Right.
But we stand firm on what we believe, and so that's probably gonna happen. I mean, look, I represent a district that